Hi, and welcome to the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show. I'm Paula Golding, and I am your host. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my background so that you can understand a little bit about what the show will be about. I built a huge client list over the last 5 years selling live edge slabs and lumber to the woodworking community of North America. With the onset of the coronavirus, I felt compelled to do something to help the woodworking community. And this just seemed to be a way to bring these makers to the forefront of the pandemic. And so I decided that I would interview as many of my clients as I possibly could. And even people that I'd never met before that I just know through Instagram. Anyways, I live in Ontario, Canada, and there is a very strong community of woodworkers within the area. I am very humbled to actually know some of these very gifted people personally. I'm just super excited that you are taking time out of your busy schedule to check out these interviews. Whether you're a woodworker or an art, or your choice of medium is something else, I hope that you will find a community here that will help you on your journey of making. Okay, now let's get started. This episode of the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show comes to you from Tags Tools, with 2 locations to serve you in Hamilton, one at 1104 Barton Street East, and in the mountain at 1361 Rymel Road East, your go-to store for hard-to-find tools and machinery. Hi, so you're about to watch my very first interview, and I had the pleasure of speaking with Jason of Northdog Wood Co. All right, so I'm here with Jay from Northdog Wood Company, and hi Jay. It's great that I really appreciate that you're taking this time. I know you're so busy right now.
Oh, it's bananas right now, but at the same time, I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Yeah, thank you so much. But I just wanted to start off. I wanted to ask you about Apple first of all, because I saw on Facebook that you actually came from Apple. So I was wondering, how did you go from becoming a geek to becoming a furniture designer, maker, and a supplier of lumber and slabs?
This goes a lot deeper. This is a lot of layers. I'll put this out there. I'll say that I was a musician first and foremost.
Okay.
So I did a lot of touring and traveling, and I played with a rock band. Somewhere along the way, I joined Apple, and I was recruited by them. And they asked me if I was interested in, during downtime sort of thing, was interested in taking up a part-time job with them and just doing sales and whatever. They just kind of saw that I had a personality, and they asked me to join their team in Toronto at the Yorkdale Shopping Center. And I did that. And I kind of fell in love with the work. At the same time, I was really passionate about music, and I was touring, I was traveling, and they made it work for me. They allowed me to work part-time, still travel. Then when the time was there that I wasn't as busy with touring, and we had some stuff going on where we had to stop an album, and I had a good couple years where I wasn't playing music every 4 days of the week, and then traveling for my summers and all that sort of stuff. And they allowed me to go full time, and I did some good training and development, and it's what you would call like a mentor with them. So I helped to facilitate hiring and onboarding and training and all that sort of stuff. And it was a really good job. It was more than just a job though. Like, it taught me a lot of very good life skills, and a lot of that was to do with leadership and mentorship. Now,
right on.
What ended up happening was music came to a screeching halt. And I would say it was a good 2 weeks. I was at home just drinking and not really doing anything, kind of feeling sorry for myself.
Sure. Yeah.
And I just decided I was going to make a little coffee table, a little bench in the house. And I had never really worked with my hands that much before. I'd helped build like the odd little cabin and like things like that. But I never really built anything. And I just said, you know what, I woke up one morning and I said to the girl that I was with at the time, I said, today's the day that I'm going to learn how to do this. And I went and just got everything that I needed from Home Depot and just whatever. I read a couple things online and I just kind of said, screw it. It's kind of like how I look at cooking. I was just kind of like, well, you're going to make something. And if it's good, it's good. If it's not, you'll figure out how to make it better next time. And, and I made one piece, and then somebody had asked me to build one for them. And then a person that I was working with at the time, who became my first business partner, Chris, he was a welder, fabricator. And he said, why don't I weld up some legs and you build a top, and we'll implement steel with the wood. And so we made our first piece together, and then it was one thing after another, and the business just kept growing. And I decided to take a jump. I was at a place in my life where I said, I had an opportunity to go move up north with right next to my mom. There was a house that was bought there by my family on the power of sale, and the rent was really cheap. The mortgage was cheap. So I said, if I'm going to take a shot at anything right now, to go be creative again and to learn something new and dive in and, take this opportunity, now's the time.
Right.
And honestly, I just did it. I just flipped the switch, and I tried to teach myself everything I could and learn from everybody and use the platforms that we met each other on, like Instagram, as a way to fuel that and to gain knowledge and to meet people and learn about the industry and learn how this whole thing ticked. And I knew where I wanted to go and what I want to do, and I'm still on my way there.
So did you know that Northdog was going to end up being, did you know in your mind, like, that this is where you were going, that you wanted to be making and selling and being a supplier? And
I just wanted to make cool stuff. And so did my partner at the time, Chris. All he kept saying was, I just want to build stuff and for people to want to buy it.
Right.
And from the start, I always want to scale, and I want to grow, and I want things to get better. And a lot of that's just instilled in me from a young age. And it's just like, you got to be better the next day than you were today. And that's not to say that, making wasn't going to go that way, but I was looking at the company as like, every step along the way, maybe it might've seemed right off the bat that I was pipe dreaming, and that I thought that we were going to be able to take this company to a place where it just didn't even seem feasible at the time because of our skill sets and because of everything else. But at the same time, that's, I think, what kind of helped me navigate through that, is because I saw something that I wanted to accomplish, and then I would go out and do it. And there were baby steps. It was, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And then constantly putting more on my plate, and and that's, eventually, unfortunately, it came to a time where the business was at a place where it was kind of like, are we going to jump, or is it just going to keep going, or is it, we're going to regress, and then we're going to slow down and maybe not take so many custom orders and just build stuff. And that was the time where I had to take the jump. And I love Chris with all my heart, my former business partner, but we hit a fork. And then
that happens.
I mean, to answer your question in black and white, like, no, of course not. Like, no, I don't think anybody really actually knows what's going to happen. You just kind of deal with shit one hurdle at a time.
Exactly.
But if you're in the race, and you got to finish the race, or what the end of the race looks like, or what you want it to feel like, then I think all those hurdles, at least they're guided. At least you're not running backwards sometimes. At least you always know you're running towards the finish line. Right?
That's so good. Wait, everything you just said, for any up and comings, that they're going to really take what you just said there and run with it.
I would hope so, because I'm still doing the same thing. Like, it's a principle that I think you just don't lose in business. I think it's just, if you do lose that, that's the hunger. You lose the hunger. You just, you got to keep wanting to go forward. And I can't remember what music producer I heard the comment from. I think it was somebody like Timbaland or something. And it was just like, if you're guided by your own passion, and if you want something, if you actually want something, you're gonna get it. And you just have to put in the work. And if you don't know what that work looks like, if somebody who doesn't actually want it will make an excuse as to figure out like why you can't do that, or like what, you know, give some sort of an excuse as to, oh, this isn't feasible right now or something like that. Somebody who does want it, they don't even think that. You just don't think that. You just go and do it. And if you if you hit a roadblock, you don't even look at it like it's a roadblock.
Right.
You're just like, I just took a body check and now I'm still going in the same direction, right? Like,
right.
And yeah, I think that, like, if you're going to take anything home, like if somebody new is going to take anything home to, you know, if they're investing into their own careers, is to just body check every single wall and think of it like you're body checking the wall and going through it, right?
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Well, like what you're doing right now too, right?
Yeah,
like
that's exactly on the road that I'm on. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
Because I'm wanting to open up an artisan shop, and then this whole pandemic happened. And so I'm taking some different steps, and like you said, baby steps, right? So I'm just taking some different steps and doing a few things a little bit differently than I planned. And it's just taking a few weeks for me to sort of sort it out and then just start digging in, right? So success doesn't come easy. Nothing worthwhile comes easy, right?
No.
Yeah. So
now I have a new business partner, Chad and I, we had been very close friends. And then when I started touring, a lot of my friendships kind of fell to the wayside. I just didn't see a lot of anybody, even my family. And then after that, I reconnected with Chad, and it had nothing to do with work. It had nothing to do with what I was doing. It was just reconnected because I just missed the guy, and I wanted to start spending time with him. And I had lived up in Kingston at the time, and he had a house in Coburg, and I just said, like, enough's enough. I want to come see your house. I hadn't even met his daughter, and his daughter, I think, she turned 3 at that point, and I hadn't even met her yet.
Okay.
And so, you know, I was feeling all kinds of guilt with a lot of the friendships that I had once I got out of that. And I decided that, you know what, now's the time I'm going to reinvest myself into those friendships. Yeah. And as I started hanging out with Chad, when I was traveling back and forth like crazy for work, I was driving from Kingston to Toronto, 3-4 times a week, servicing clients. He had bought a house in Bowmanville, and he said, well, why don't you just stay here as a middle point? Like, we can house you. Don't quit running all the way back and forth. Like, my family will take you in with open arms, and like you can stay here. And so I started doing that. And then I was talking to him about what I wanted to do with the business, and it kind of all made sense to kind of drive it back towards the city in Bowmanville. And I was kind of seeing if there was interest of some of these companies to have a spokesperson run one of their locations and stuff like that. Yeah. And I was sniffing around, and I was kind of thinking that might be a really good option for me. Anyway, so the opportunities were this way. A couple of my friends, one of my friends was an arborist, and he was basically saying, well, hey, why don't you just move out here and we'll figure it out. Sorry about my language. It's like, we'll figure it out. Move out here, and you're going to find work regardless. You're working in the city mostly anyway. You'll shave off an hour each way, you know, so you're going to save time. And I decided to move back to Bowmanville, and then I was looking for like an industrial space. I had a fairly large workshop that I had in Kingston, and I moved into a spot with a 2-car garage, and it wasn't quite enough for the projects that I had on the go. I was working on a conference table. I had a restaurant job that I was doing. I was had a couple of orders for some interior designers, and I basically more jobs going on at the time that I could fit. And Chad said, I'm not using my garage during the winter. Come on over. It's heated. Use my garage. And he's like, wow. He started working. I was on speed dial for him while he was building his own table and stuff. And he started coming out every single night that I was over there. And every day when he'd come home from work, he'd kind of come in and like poke around, ask what I was doing. And then, you know, we'd have a drink and he would just kind of hang out. We got our friendship back. Right? Yeah,
that's wonderful.
It was great. Yeah. And then the friendship actually turned into something that was really professional. Like he discovered kind of something about himself. Like he went to school for architecture, for design. And he always wanted to kind of be a builder and build things and make things. And he didn't have that outlet currently in his life. And then I think when I kind of quote unquote moved in there, I think it just started oozing out of him. And that's what drove Northdog Wood Co., not Northdog what it was. That's what drove Northdog Wood Co. was that me spilling myself out to him and telling him what I wanted to accomplish, and him just oozing that potential and that want to design and want to build. And we just started talking, and we started talking about what we could do, what it could be, what we needed to make it happen, and if we were going to do it ourselves or if somebody else was going to do a lot of the legwork. And eventually it was kind of like one of those moments. I think it was a Friday night, a couple drinks. We looked at each other and we went, we could just do this all on our own. Let's just fucking do it.
Right.
And it was like, are you with me? And we'll find the money. We'll do whatever we have to do. Let's just do it. And let's put the work in and let's do it. And we registered the Northdog Wood Co. at that point, opened up a pad of paper, and we just started writing everything we could think about, every angle, every what do we need? What's that supply chain going to look like? How are the finances going to work? What are the budgets that we're going to need? What are we going to forecast? Like, we just, things that are over our head that we didn't understand, we just started writing. And, you know, none of us went to school for business, but bringing that in front of somebody at that point who has success in business and who understands a lot about that, they were able to help guide those numbers and turn them into something that made sense. Then we just did it. We got the money and we did it. And a lot of support to do that. You know, we didn't go through a bank. We went through private lending, and she's the sweetest lady on the planet, very close to Chad. And I mean, we could have gone through the bank, but we decided to go this route. And and basically that, now Chad and I are in this situation, and he's doing more design work than he is anything else at this point. I'm running around quite a bit, dealing with a lot of, well, everything right now. He's at home in isolation, but he has 2 young ones, and his health's been a little bit off over the past couple months. Anybody who's been in here knows that he's been back and forth to the doctors quite a bit. I think it's just very smart for him to be at home.
Yeah, if he's having any problem, like if he's feeling not well, definitely now's the time to stay home for sure.
Now is definitely the time to stay home, especially with the newborn and everything.
Yeah. In regards to the charity build.
Yes, charity build.
And you had so many. I actually went back because I thought about it, and I think this is something that is worth talking about and letting people know about. And how many makers you had involved in that whole thing was amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. We had decided that we wanted to do like a maker's night a couple months after we opened the store. And we were looking for somewhere to do this, to donate. It wasn't something that we just wanted to have a night. We wanted people to be a part of something, and we wanted it there to be a lot of love that went behind it, and for people to feel like they were everyone involved was a part of something, even all of our suppliers. And it was for a cause. It's for the Durham Region Hospice. The table's still in here, actually. It's going to be raffled off. COVID-19 kind of put a damper on the raffle, but that table's being raffled off. And it's going to the hospice. Well, it's not going to the hospice. The hospice is raffling it and then using the funds for help them. Their supplies and everything that they need, for a cause that was pretty close to home. A very good friend of Chad's family and also a friend of mine from growing up was in a hospice, and she passed way too young. And the hospice did an incredible job with her. And so it just seemed really fitting at the time to do that. Yeah. And we created a group on Instagram called the Durham Maker Group. And if anybody's not a part of this and sees this and they're in the Durham region, please just message me on Instagram. We'll add you to the group. It's just a group of us makers, and we kind of shoot the shit and talk about business, talk about just anything random. And it's just a fun group where, we can bring up stuff. If somebody has questions about pricing or,
Where is this? It's on
Instagram.
It's on Instagram.
It's just a group, just like a chat group.
Yeah.
And I invited everybody out that wanted to come out and be a part of the build. And a lot of the people said they had never built a table before and all that sort of stuff. And they said, well, never built a table, don't really know what to do. And it was basically just show up and and be excited to try something new. And we'll put the sander in your hand. We'll teach you how to do it. And we all collectively work together we had a team of fabricators, welders come in. Chad designed up the legs beforehand, had the cut list handy like he always does. And basically it was like, here's the plans for that. And then the tabletop, I had brought over a group of people to work on the tabletop and kind of taught them some little tips and tricks on how we finish some of our tables in here. And if they could take anything home from that, we were hoping that they could. And just, it was great. It was honestly, it was a great day. We did it on a Saturday. Took less than 5 hours to do the whole thing with that many hands working on it.
For sure.
It was the song of the sander. It was a couple festival sanders, the Walt and Cuba, and they were all singing together at the same time.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That is really cool. I think that's awesome that you guys did that. I want to touch on your website and the things that you've been doing since the COVID-19 came in, and I noticed that you did not miss a beat. You were on it immediately.
I appreciate you noticing that.
I noticed things. Hey, I noticed you did not miss a single beat. You were like, that's it. I'm selling stuff online now. And that was pretty cool. So tell me about that, what that process involved.
It was one of those things where when it started popping up in the news a little bit more, a couple of the guys that were in here working and Chad, we were sitting here kind of talking about, what that would look like if this actually happened here, and if it didn't get a control on the virus, and if it was going to spread, how would that impact our business? And we're heavily dependent on walk-in traffic, heavily dependent on walk-in traffic.
Yeah, I can understand that.
50% of our revenue is from what you see behind us, or behind me, is slabs, charcuterie stock, maker supplies, all that sort of stuff. And we have a lot of slabs. We have, a good 250 to 3. I mean, no, it's not a lot to you because you're used to Bowman. But
no,
for a small little shop like us,
you got a lot of stuff there. You've got a good solid supply, definitely.
We're one of the only companies doing it. So you can imagine it gets really busy in here. And we were chit-chatting about what we would do. And I was kind of saying, okay, well, do we go like an educational route? Do we do like master classes on things and have people subscribe? And then, does that give them some discounts on some of the material and all that sort of stuff? Or do we focus on online, or do we just not do any of it and keep building furniture and just hope that our furniture orders sustain themselves through? We can support ourselves on our furniture orders. We do quite a bit. But it was kind of like, well, what happens if nobody has the disposable income? Businesses get closed down and nobody's buying boardroom tables, and nobody's buying, restaurants aren't refinishing their bars, and, no new breweries are opening, and, big chunks of our business like that. So it was in the middle of Trudeau's speech, when he came out and was basically explaining right after, the premier had spoken about what Ontario was doing and talking about businesses closing or everybody's job was going to be safe and all that sort of stuff. I walked away from where everybody was standing watching the TV, and I grabbed a slab and I kind of lined it up and took a picture of it. And I was kind of like, this is it. I'm loading everything onto the website. There's no two ways about it. This is what we're doing. And there was a little bit of pushback for about 2 minutes. And I think Josh had said to Chad, he's a peacock, man. Just let him fly. It took me about 2.5 weeks of just all day, every day, muscling this stuff and getting it on there. But it's on there now. And honestly, we couldn't take our call this morning because of how many orders were coming in. And I think I told you, I was like, it makes me want to cry. Just knowing that the support is there from
the work that you were doing, that people are actually what you're doing, helping your customers, that they're actually taking advantage of that, being able to continue with their thing.
I didn't know if I was going to be able to support the business, and Chad was like, well, what if this doesn't work? And I was kind of like, well, I don't know. I'm sorry. Jump into the deep end with me here, please.
Well,
You
there's only
know,
so
well,
many options though. Like
yeah,
if people right now and maybe for quite some time that will be able, like, there won't be any other option to
right,
gain the materials to do what they want to do, right?
right.
So
But
yeah,
this is another scenario where there's the path of least resistance also seems pretty easy. And I don't mean to take this or say this the wrong way, or if it's not kosher of me to say it, but I went to go to see if I can apply for Ontario Works to see if I could subsidize some of my own wages. And it's a great program, but
right.
basically I was basically told that I couldn't work at all if I wanted to take in some money. So it was kind of like the path of least resistance, I think, in a lot of people in that moment is to say, okay, well, I can't friggin' work. Cool. I'll collect a paycheck and I just can't work. Whereas I think for us, it was kind of like, if the business isn't growing, it doesn't matter if there's a virus outside. It doesn't matter what this, like, there could be an asteroid coming for the earth right now. And yeah, we'd be panicking, but at the end of the day, we're that hungry about our business and making sure that what we want to achieve is going to be achieved, that
Yeah.
it's kind of like there's still work to be done.
Yeah, for sure. And you have a whole bunch of customers that are depending on you too, right?
Yes,
Because
and that's it. It's
yeah,
all these people need to keep making, and we're
exactly.
starting something here. Like, and it
Yeah,
feels amazing. It feels amazing when we have, there's small wins, and like I say this with my girlfriend all the time. I'm like, we'll get 10 orders in a day, and out of those 10 orders, there's 4 people that I've never seen their names before at all.
right.
And
Yeah,
to me, like, it's not the money that's coming in. It's not the fact that the business is sustaining. I'm like, this is an opportunity to make this person a creator. I don't know if they're already creating. I don't know if what they're doing, but if we can get them injected into our system where
yeah,
they're purchasing and they're coming for advice and they're learning how to use this product, that's going to
right.
be somebody who's then going to be going out and selling and creating a movement with handcrafted goods and
Yeah,
making something and pushing this own little maker economy. And
exactly.
like that, like, this is it. There's a massive movement going on right now, and
Oh yeah.
I want to be a big part of that movement.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a
And
good job of it, I think.
thank you.
So
Thank you. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done by everybody in order to make this. There's still the amount of customers that come to me and they're expecting a table for $1,000 and they're used to IKEA. They're used to this sort of stuff. And they want to try DIY themselves and they find it's really expensive, or they're too scared to take that jump and all those sorts of things. To me, once again, they're just roadblocks and they're just hurdles. And to get people building and making, there's not much better of a feeling for any human being, I don't think, than when you make something. It doesn't matter what you're making. If it's a song, if it's a painting, if you make your bed in the morning, there's a feeling of satisfaction when you accomplish something like that.
Right.
Now, making the bed's obviously a very small one, but when you step back and you go, oh my goodness, I made this, the pride that people have when they do things like that, like, I want people to feel that.
Yeah.
It can save people's mental state in the snap of a finger.
I believe that's 100% true. And you know what I noticed about your website is when I went in to look at your tables, I love the way, and for everybody that listens to this, that you can go in on your website and look at a table and actually see the breakdown of the cost to do it yourself, or to have you do it. And you actually lay it out to show why it costs what it does.
But yes, I agree with you. And like, to anybody that's new to quoting, like, this is one of the biggest questions that I get asked on Instagram almost every single day, is like, how do you justify prices? How do you quote for people? How do you do that? The breakdown is really simple. Dave from Northern Joinery actually gave me a swift kick in the butt without actually realizing he was doing it, because I always like to temperature check and pulse check and see how everybody's doing everything in the industry. I like to ask because I want to know if we're in alignment. Like, this is an important thing. Dave just basically said, look, 4 steps, man. He's like, cost of the wood, cost of steel, cost of your finished materials, and your labor.
Right.
And he goes, it's not, it's not rocket science because, we were pricing for a little while under square footage. But then when you translate that over to a conference table, you go, okay, well, you know what? We're quoting a table at $180 a square foot. And then you put that at a 17-foot table, that number shoots up to $250 a square foot or $280 a square foot if you actually do the math on your amount of labor and everything that goes into it and the sheer size that it's eating up in your workshop. How do you take those into consideration? So when you just lay it all out, now our quote forms, when I put Odie's oil as my finish, I know how much Odie's oil I'm going to use, and I go 1/3 of a jar of Odie's oil costs you this much money. Mm-hmm. And I lay it all out. I'm like, half a package of P-Tech, this much money. Like I'm putting in there what it is, and I'm not scared to put overage.
Right, 20%. Sure. Well, transparency is good for business.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. And epoxy, if I think it's going to take me 80 liters, well, I'm probably going to put 120 liters, and I'm going to put a parentheses next to it. Assumption is 80 liters. 120 is what I have just in case there's any errors. And if we use less than 120, that will be rebated off the final portion of your. And it's being transparent and not being scared to give a price.
Yeah.
Like, on our feed, if somebody goes, how much does this cost? I'm like, $8,000. Why does this cost $8,000? In the middle of the comment thread, here's a list of why it costs $8,000.
Right, right on. That's awesome.
That's it. Like,
yeah. Well, listen, Jay, I would like to, first of all, I can't thank you enough for saying yes. And you were my first yes. And I'm hoping that maybe a little bit down the road, maybe we can sort of do a follow-up.
I would love that.
Talk about what has happened since today and all the changes in the world and what you're doing to better your company and to serve your customers. And,
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are you excited?
Am I excited
about what you have going on with what you're doing?
Right now? With what I'm doing? Am I excited? I'm excited. I'm right now with this whole COVID thing. To be honest, I had to sort of step back from everything and just take a little breather from Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff, and then just sort of re-look at what I am doing because I have my shop, I have it sitting there waiting for me, and with everything, other things that are going on in my life, I've sort of had that put it on hold. Am I excited? I'm excited. I'm also a little scared and nervous, which I think is normal. I realized that maybe, well, no one else is doing this in Kitchener, so why wouldn't I be successful at it? So
right, that's it. You're like legendary, You're like an Ontario legend.
That's hilarious. Okay, now I'm a legend. I've been told by people when they meet me, they go, "Oh, wow, you're famous," and they like shake my hand. My daughter was with me one day, and she actually, this guy, we were at a market, and this guy was selling boards and stuff like that, and I went over and introduced myself, and he said, "Wow, you're famous," and my daughter rolled her eyes. It was so funny. Yeah. So, but no, I'm not. I really wanted to do that. My dream was to open up this artisan shop, and I just happened to choose a time when this big change is happening in the world, and it sort of set me back. But I'm up for it.
It's a hurdle, right? It's a hurdle.
It's a hurdle, exactly.
Well, you're adapting. Like even this, when you sent that email to me to do this with you, I thought the first thing that I thought was exactly what I wrote was yes. And then after I sent the email back, I was like, what a great idea.
Yeah.
And there's number one, there's very minimal podcasts. There's very minimal live podcasts around this sort of thing. And this is just cool.
Yeah, well, I want to get it. I know so many people, right?
Yeah.
I'm really focusing on the makers that I've worked with and people I'm focusing on Canada and the makers in Canada. That's sort of where I've decided to go. And I want to get it out there so that everybody can meet each other, learn from each other. I have time right now to do this. So why not make a, so I'm going to put it on, I've got a YouTube channel. Yeah. And I'll be converting it to podcast, and I'll be probably putting it on my Facebook page. And, and I'm also going to, because I'm like you, I'm going to be learning. I have a lot of theory, tons and tons of it on woodworking because of everybody that I know. But now I have to take what's here and put it in my hands. So that's where I would say I'm most nervous. But if you did it, I can do it.
Oh man, honestly, if I could do it, a 2-year-old could do it. But no, seriously, that would be the part that I'd be least worried about. You have a very creative mind. Like you're honestly, the skill, it's the will that you can't teach. The skill is, yes, there are people who are naturally gifted. Yeah. But the will will always beat the skill.
Right. So eventually you'll be seeing video as well on the Live Edge Lumber Girl show of me working in my shop. Perfect. So we'll see what becomes of all that. I've seen enough of it on Instagram. I should be able to navigate it.
Honestly, you're creative. Like when you sent that big email out about the changes that you were making, it was just, to me, it was just kind of like, cool, she's going to be successful somewhere else, you know?
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, this has been like totally awesome. I'm so excited to be doing this, and I look forward to a follow-up.
Yes.
So that we can really look at what the whole outcome from this whole thing will be, what's going to be when we come out the other end, right?
And we're just, our eyes are all shut. Like we have no idea.
I know. Yeah. That uncertainty, right?
But like, this is why I mentioned this with Apple. One of the biggest things when you learn how to deal with ambiguity, you just stop caring that when things are a little bit out of your control, and you start focusing on the things that are in your control, and you just friggin' adapt.
Right on. Yeah. You're so awesome, Jay. Yeah, just keep doing those Instagram stories.
All right. Anyway, thanks for having me. Honestly, it's a humongous pleasure.
I appreciate your time so much.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed watching, be sure to click like and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell to stay in the loop. If you have any questions, or if you would like to be featured on the Live Edge Lumber Girl show, leave a comment below. Until next time.